So guys, we are here in the dev server to talk a little bit about the IRCCM SLM. It is receiving actually a kind of a substantial nerf, kinda. Well, let's talk a little bit about to see if it's actually a nerf or not, but that will decrease the seeker distance from 10 kilometers to 4 kilometers, which will basically mean that the seeker will remain with the ballistic cap, right? Up to like 4 kilometers from the target. So, for example, here at 2 kilometers, the missile will already be without the cap shortly after the takeoff, and it will actually fly via IR, right, up to the target. But if the target is above 4 kilometers, it will remain with that cap up to 4 kilometers of distance from the target, and then it will actually become a proper IR missile. So what does that mean? Well, two things, guys. The first thing is that this missile will now be kind of a different thing. So up to 4 kilometers from the target of distance, it will work very similarly, right, to a Fox 3 missile before it goes pitbull, right? Before it goes to the radar seeker of the own aircraft. So as you can see over here, you can even see the missile kind of flies in another direction. It kind of lofts, and then afterwards it will actually try to get the lock, right? And it turns down, right? And it will, like, from a target that it's very far away like that, right? So basically it will work like a Fox 3 missile. It was already working like that, but from 10 kilometers, you would rarely use distances that are too much above 10 kilometers anyway, which means that normally you wouldn't use this capability. So for gameplay purposes, what does that mean? Well, it means two things, okay? It will become worse in one thing and become better in a second thing. So what does that mean? Well, guys, before we actually talk about this, we need to explain how the IRCCM of the IRIS-T works. So it does use an FOV IRCCM plus seeker shutoff. The seeker shutoff, of course, it means that it's like the AIM-9M. So once it detects a flare, it turns itself off very quickly, and then on, detects a flare, off and on, off and on. And of course, the FOV one, it means that once you get a lock, once you get a fire, a shot, right, it means that the FOV IRCCM will get smaller. So I don't know, if it is 5 degrees, for example, it will get to like 1 degree, maybe, the FOV of the seeker head. In this case, after it gets a lock, it gets a 0.25 seeker angle at field of view in degrees, right? So it means that it's very, very tiny. It means that it is one of, or if not the best, together with some others, like for example the FB10 over here, IRCCMs in the game. So just for you to have an idea, this is a 0.25 degrees, which is incredibly tiny. If you take a look on, for example, the R-73, which is one of the best missiles in the game, on that regard, it is 0.75. So it's 3 times smaller than, the R-73 RCCM, right? So it's tiny, guys. It's tiny. What does that mean? It means that if you have less, it's already pretty tiny, but if you have less distance that the seeker head is on, it means that from up afar, since, from 10 kilometers to the 4 kilometers now, we will, work as a radar missile, kind of, with TWS. It means that the missile itself is way less likely to be fooled by flares, okay? So it means that the IRCCM will have a much better performance. So, AKA, guys, it is a buff on the terms that it is really, really unlikely that this missile will be fooled by by flares now, okay? So it means that this missile will be pretty much impossible to avoid with flares, because at 4 kilometers, this missile already has such a tiny FOV that it doesn't matter what IRCCM, what flares you use or anything like that, nothing will make that missile lose. So this is the good part. Although, yes, it is technically a nerf, it has a good part about it, because since it's actually going for a closer shot when the seeker is actually turned on, right? It means that the likeliness of an FOV making sure to see a flare would be way less, you know? So it's not gonna even use too much of the seeker shut-off part of the IRCCM. So it is much better because of that. It will be highly unlikely that somebody will avoid this missile once the seeker is on. But at the same time, guys, you gotta think that this is going to be a problematic missile up to those 4 kilometers. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that up to that 4 kilometers, it will use the main radar of the vehicle, which means that if this radar stops seeing the missile, it means that it's just flying by INS, inertial navigation, which means that you can just turn very quickly to another place that you weren't going before, and it will make the missile miss up to that 4 kilometer range. Okay, so that's kind of how it's gonna work. Up to the 4 kilometers, so imagine that we are firing a target that it's at 20 kilometers range. So the first 16 kilometers of the flight, if it's a lot easier to make this missile miss, because if you lose the TWS, detection with the radar, it means that it's, one turn of making the INS position obsolete, right? It means that the missile will miss. But if it gets close enough and it's less than 4 kilometers, there's basically nothing that you can do that will make this missile miss. So that's kind of how it is probably going to work out, okay? It means that the IRIS-T is much better up close, or in a general sense, basically impossible to avoid when the target is already detected with the IR seeker, or when it's already on. But if it's further away, with some maneuvers, it will be easier to make sure that the radar is not seeing you, meaning that the missile will lose the INS position because it will try to continue where you were going, right? And it will basically not get a lock on the IR. So from up afar, it is a NERF, and from up close, it is a buff basically. When the missile is up close, right? It doesn't mean that if the target noticed that the missile is coming at 4, like it's already at 4 kilometers, the missile and not the launcher, he's already dead probably. Okay, so this is how it's gonna work. It will make sure that even from head-on passes and everything, the missile itself will be much better against aircraft. Okay, so it's kind of a nerf, but kind of a buff at the same time. And just for you to let you know, guys, this is the line that Zabi found. It was very early on the dev server, so IRIS-T, SLM, SAM, of course, range at which the seeker switches on 4 kilometers. So again, it means that it will maintain that ballistic cap for a longer period of time. It means that it will use the data link with INS up to that 4 kilometers from the target, right? Once it detects that it's at 4 kilometers from the target, it will turn itself on, and then good luck for the target, because before at 10 kilometers, even at 0.25 degree FOV, could still be kind of fooled with flares. At 4 kilometers, man, it's tiny, boys. It's tiny, the FOV. So it will basically not see anything other than the middle of the aircraft, right? So it's, yeah. So this is it, the IRIS-T buff nerf happening, okay? This is in the dev server right now, and it will probably be added to the live as well, okay? So I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye guys, see ya.